Hello and welcome to Swift Goose. Today we're going to take a look at documentation in Xcode, specifically creating your own documentation, searching Apple's documentation for definitions, declarations, and help, and some keyboard shortcuts to help you become more efficient in Xcode. So let's get started in a playground. So first, as your code gets more complicated and your projects start to get larger and you have more variables, functions, comments, etc., you might need to find out a variable's declaration or definition. So let's say string equals new string. And let's put in a couple more variables, var x, y, and we'll declare them to be of type integer. And then we'll say print string, and then we'll set x and y down here. X equals 5, y equals 10. Our code is not too complicated yet, but we can at least see how jump to definition works. So if we click before this y variable, we'll see that all the instances of y actually get selected for us and highlighted. And if we select the whole y and press Control, Command, and J at the same time, it'll actually jump to where that variable was declared. So you'll see it was declared up here on line 7. An even simpler way to jump to the definition is to hold Control, Command, and then hover over your variable and click on it, and you'll see it gets revealed up here. We can do the same thing with X. We can do the same thing with string. Now what happens if we jump to the definition of one of Xcode's built-in keywords, like int, var, or string? Let's see. So hold Command, Control, and then click on int, and you'll see Xcode actually opens up a new tab which will have the documentation for whatever item that we clicked on. So this takes you to where integer is declared and defined. If you scroll down, you can see other properties and functions within this code. Let's close this and go back for now. Now let's look at how to reveal documentation for functions that are either built in for Xcode or that you might write yourself. Let's create our own function. We'll call it func buy cheese coin, and we'll put a parameter in here called amount, and that will be an integer. Curly braces, print we just bought. We use string interpolation to say amount cheese coin. Now if we run this, buy cheese coin, and we'll put an amount of 3 and press play, you'll see we just bought 3 cheese coin. If we want to view the documentation for our function that we just created or one of Xcode's keywords, we can do this by holding the Option key, hovering over what we want to look at, and then clicking. So you can see if we hover over our cheese coin function, it'll highlight the whole function, or if we can hover over amount or integer. So if we click on buy cheese coin, it'll give us a quick look at the documentation for this function that we created. We can see we have the declaration, the parameters, amount, but it has no description, and there's no overall description for the function itself. Now let's close that. Let's hold Option and click on amount. You see there's no documentation for this. And if we click on int, this is Xcode's documentation for the keyword int. Another way to view the documentation in Xcode is by going to the top right of the screen and clicking this button here. And you'll see we want to be on this question mark tab. You see that it says no quick help, but we can search documentation. If we click on our cheese coin function, it brings up the same options as if we had done the option click. Now if we highlight integer, it gives us the same information here. Now let's go click on amount, and you see that there's no documentation available for this variable that we created here. But this also gives us the opportunity to search Xcode's documentation for anything that we want. So after clicking that search button, it brings us to this page where we can search documentation here for anything we want. So let's put in string, and it gives us suggested. If we click on this, we can see all the documentation available to us for strings. And you also have the viewer on the left that allows you to find whatever you're looking for. Let's close this for now. And let's close this for now. When working on a project, it might be helpful for you to add documentation to your functions so that when you come back to the function later, you know what it does, or if somebody else is looking at your code, they can easily tell what it does. To do this, we can hold the command key. So let's move this over first. Hold command and click on our buy cheese coin function. And you'll see in the left we have different options available to us. Let's select add documentation. And Xcode gives us a commented out template that we could use to add our own documentation. So let's say this is a function to help us buy cheese coin. So you'll also notice that Xcode has pre-populated this amount variable based on our parameter that we put in here. We can add a description and say how many cheese coins to buy. Let's change these. And just as another quick tip, we can hold command, click on our function, and under add documentation, we can select add parameter to add an additional parameter. So let's make this one price, and type will be double. Now when we do this, we'll get an error for our function call down here, missing argument for parameter price. So let's add that in now, comma, price, and we'll set it equal to 1.2345. Now, if we go back and press command, click on our function, and hit add documentation, it'll automatically add that price variable back into our documentation. Let's say the current price of cheese coin. Now that we've added some documentation, let's go back and view it with the quick help by pressing option and then clicking on our function. And here we see that the summary has now appeared. This is a function to help us buy cheese coin, as well as our parameters now have descriptions for each of them. And as one final tip, if you want to insert emojis or symbols into your workspace, so let's replace cheese and coin with symbols. Control Command Space, search cheese, double click, close this out, and let's search for coin. Command Control Space, coin. There it is. Close out our menu, and now let's delete our string here. And when we run this, we just bought 3 cheese coins. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and remember to hit the dinner bell to get more notifications.